Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 383 of CryptoBiography, and it's part 6 of Repercussions. And here we go. Her source didn't know who she was, really. She occasionally checked to make sure of that fact with all her sources. And she didn't know who he was, or so he thought. But she had broken through his anonymity. She thought about it a while. In a way, she didn't blame him. To him, she was just a hired killer who could be offed without a second thought. She'd had a few sources go bad, and by now she knew it was not personal. She was dealing with people who were passing information to a murderer for money. Some of them would be on the up and up with her, whether out of some sense of honor or out of fear. Some would not, and could be bought. With them, it was just a matter of time. So she didn't need to do anything fancy with him. She didn't need to make a big statement or make sure he knew why he was being killed or make his death go so horrific that anyone else would get the message. Nope, he just needed to go. The only issue beyond that was who made him turn. She suspected it was the 7 people who were in a conspiracy to find her, but she would need to make sure. She met the man at his condominium one night. He was out, probably drinking, as she knew that was his habit. He came home and tried to turn on the light. It didn't turn on. But he was more than a little drunk, and it didn't raise an alert for him. He could have left his front door open and walked to another light switch, or he could have gone on the alert. But instead he just shut his front door while pulling his phone out. He was going to use the screen or the built-in light to find his way to the next switch. As soon as the door was shut, she said to him from across the room, "Don't move. Put down the phone and kick it towards the window." The condo had a small area by the door that had the kitchen off to one side. Then it opened to a large area that would probably have a dining room if the condo was owned by a family. As he was single, he had just a sofa against one wall and a TV facing it, and there was a large window with a fine view of the city. There was no shade or other way to block the window, so some light was coming in. He, having just come in, was nearly blind. But the light was enough that she, having been in the room for a long while, could see quite well. He kicked the phone, and it skidded over to the window. She was just beside it, and took a step and grabbed it, without taking his eyes off the man for more than a split second. She turned the screen on. It seemed to still be locked. He hadn't been able to turn on a recorder or call 911 or anything else as far as she could tell. "Very good. Now come to your sofa and sit down." He did so. She knew that he would be able to make out her outline a little, but that was all. She was masked, and even if the lights were on, he would have seen nothing but her eyes. "You turned on me. I want to know who hired you, and how much they know." The man scoffed. "You know how it is. I don't know your name, just like I don't know who they are." She wasn't sure if they meant a group of people, or if he was just referring to an unknown number of people, who might be singular or plural. "What's your phone code?" He groaned, but then said, 651-827. She turned on the screen and flipped around, and using one hand only, and keeping her gun pointed towards him with the other. She also angled the phone, now that it was turned on. If the phone had automatic picture taking, it could be taking photos of her eyes, at least, and uploading them to a cloud service. That could be a problem later. But the screen was quite visible from an angle that wouldn't allow the camera to see anything other than her torso. She saw that the phone was probably kept separate from his real work. Still, she memorized the passcode and turned the phone all the way off. "To your computer," she ordered. He stood up and went to his bedroom. She could tell by his slightly stiffened posture that he was considering fighting back in some way. "On the bed, face down," she said. "Spread out your arms and legs." He did so. "Don't move," she warned. She went to the computer. She saw there was a webcam, but its cover was on. The computer had no way to photograph her. It could be recording her voice, but she would check that soon. "Password?" she asked. He gave one, and she was in the computer. She got 2 other passwords and confirmed that she had access to his emails and to his financial accounts. This is what she needed. "Put your face straight down onto the bed," she commanded. He did so after a hesitation. She put the pick through his ear. He went limp. It took her 20 minutes to get all the information she wanted off the computer. It didn't involve any forwarding of information to any other computer. She just read it and took a few pictures with her phone. After making the scene look like a suicide using the man's own gun, several of which he owned, with a single shot through the same mirror, she left. Just outside, she turned on the phone, went through it one more time, blocking the camera, and concluding that it really contained nothing more of interest. Destroyed it right there, so that if GPS tracking were checked, the last data would come right from the house. But she brought the remains of the phone with her to be disposed of elsewhere. That must not be found, or else it would be too obvious that someone had taken it from the scene. It was possible they could discover the injury that she had caused, and that the bullet was fired post-mortem. But with any luck, that last part wouldn't be quite true. The fatal injury she gave would incapacitate anyone instantly, but the body usually took some time to actually die, so his heart was still active when she fired the bullet. Still, she knew there was a chance that investigators would try to track her down. So she made sure that some of her source's dirty dealings were still available on his computer, with the references to her deleted and the drive scrubbed. The investigators would undoubtedly go after a lot of the other people her source had worked with. This would also greatly increase this pool of suspects. Once she'd wended her way home, she started work on the data. This time she got information on 2 more of the names on her list of 7. With work, she could crack the conspiracy soon. And that's the episode for this week. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or X. And thanks for listening. Words and music copyright 2024, Brandon Starr, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.